Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Susie, the owner and creator here at Susie on the Farm. I love to go thrift store shopping and find items that I can upcycle and resell. Here on YouTube, I love to show you guys how I do that. Today's video is going to be another thrift flip video, so let's go ahead and get started. For project number one, I have this, I guess it's a jewelry box, but it was really cool. It comes with these little drawers that come out, and it's made of solid wood. And I think I paid $6.99 for it. Maybe it was on sale. So the first thing you want to do when you're doing thrift store makeovers is clean them. Y'all, I cannot stress enough, do not skip this step. It makes all the difference. I love to use crud cutter on things. This has been sitting a while, so it had a lot of grime and dirt on it, so I used crud cutter, cleaned it up really well, and then I used a damp cloth to rinse it all off. And then once it is dry, we're going to do milk paint on this, and I love using milk paint. It's very unpredictable, but it always, one way or another, comes up with a great finish. So we're going to get this all cleaned up, and I'm using Vintage Laurel. The color is kind of like a gray-green color, and milk paint comes in a powder form, so you want to mix half and half with water. I always tend to have to put a little bit more powder in than water to get it the consistency that I want. You kind of need it like a melted milkshake. I am using my Stallmeister number 14 pointed sash. This is the best brush for getting in these spaces like this. And when you are painting with milk paint, it does somewhat feel like you are painting at least the first coat with a melted milkshake, but I promise you're not. And once you let that coat dry and start with the second coat, it goes on perfectly. And usually 2 coats is all that you will need. For the second coat, I do like to apply heat to dry it. That just helps promote the chipping and just gives it that more aged look. And then you also want to sand over your milk paint just to make it really smooth. It will come up with a super smooth finish. And I also went ahead and distressed this with my little finger sander there. And then I'm going to get it all dried up. And the next step, I am going to put some clear wax on it, all over it. I really planned on this being the finishing of it, but then once I got it done, I decided to go a little bit more. This is Fusion furniture wax. This is the scented one, but there is many regular ones, and they're all great. All of the products that I'm using today will be listed on my website, susieonthefarm.com. I also wanted to soften up the color on the drawers. So to do that, I just used some white wax because it would stay in all those little imperfections and just make them look older. So I rubbed white wax all over the outside of them and then just took a clean cloth and wiped it back. And I think it just gave it that touch. And then I'm going to use the vintage texture stamp to give it just a little bit more crackle. It didn't get much chipping, but there was some crackle on it, and I really liked the way it looked, so I wanted more of that. You can see right there by my hand is the crackle that came with it. But this stamp really does the job if you're wanting some different textures, and I really, really love this texture. I stamped it with the stone gray ink, which is real kind of subtle, and I never reapplied the ink. I just randomly put some crackle all over the entire jewelry box. And then I took a floral, I believe this is from the La Campagne stamp, and I just did a little bit on the top, and I'm not sure why it looks so yellowish in the camera here, but in person it really doesn't have that yellow look on the top. It's just really worn looking and textured and so amazing. Since I stamped after the wax, I had to really let the ink dry, but I am in love with how this little box turned out. I don't want to sell it, but I really do not have a need for it at this time. What do y'all think about this project? Moving on to project number 2. I don't usually do a lot of Valentine's projects or decor, but I've had this little metal heart for way too long, probably a couple years. So I thought I would do an upcycle with it and give it one more shot. I'm going to paint it with Fort York Red. This is a vibrant red. It's a fusion paint. It's an all-in-one. It does not need a sealer. I do have fusion paint in tons of colors available. So I'm going to give this 2 coats, front and back. And this is a recycled decoupage paper. These are also available on my website. And this was just a nice, this is the catalog. And it has so many different images that you can use on small projects. So I'm going to use this one just to make a little tag for my heart. At first I wanted to use the key on it, but then I had another idea and I just cut this down to size and decoupaged it onto a Dollar Tree metal tag that I had. And then I pulled out my stash of already made up resin pieces looking for a key. And I had no luck, did not find one. So we're going to go ahead and make one with the amazing casting resin. I get this on Amazon, and I'm going to link it in the description box below, as well as all my other favorite tools from Amazon. And I do get a small commission on those if you purchase through my link, but it doesn't change the price that you pay. And for this resin, it's super easy to use. You mix half part A, half part B, and then you want to mix it up really well. This is a 10-minute resin, so it does not take long. I try to mix mine for a solid minute because you really want those 2 parts to be evenly and consistently mixed, or it will not set up right. And then I'm just going to pour up a couple of keys, and of course I made up too much resin. That's why I have that giant bag of resin castings already made up. I'm sure I'll use them eventually one day, so I went ahead and poured up some of the locks as well. But we're only going to be using the key in this project. So this is about 10 minutes later, and this is how easy it is. They're still a little bit pliable at this point, and so easy to get out of your mold. This is the lock and key mold from IOD. So I'm going to use this little key here, and I am going to paint. Well, first, I'm going to go ahead and distress the heart with my finger sander. Another must-have if you're doing smalls like this. It comes with all different shots, different grits of sandpaper. Sorry, I couldn't get my mind right to use with it. And then I'm going to paint the back of this tag with cast iron. And I am going to paint the key black as well. And then on the front of the little tag, I'm just going to kind of grunge it up with some black paint as well, just to tie it all together before I move on to the next step. Once the tag and the key are dry, I'm going to hot glue the key onto the tag, and then I'm going to tie them all together with the heart. I had this lace that I tied onto the heart to hang it with if someone wanted to hang it, or they could just sit it up against something. And then I did some red ribbon on the tag and tied it to the lace. And then I went ahead and hot glued the tag in place on the heart so it wouldn't be moving around on there. And I think this little project turned out so cute, and I really hope that this heart finally gets another chance to be beautiful home decor in someone's home. This one is listed on the website if you are interested. Number 3, if you saw my most recent thrift haul, I picked up this cheese box for $6.99, and I already had a plan in my head. I knew I wanted to decoupage on the top. I cleaned it up, and I took my little finger sander and just sanded down that black really well so it would not show through on the white paint. And then I'm using casement and going over the top, being careful not to get on to the metal. And I did 2 coats of this and let it dry before moving on to the next step. After the paint is dry, I'm going to use the Roycycled Feed Sacks decoupage paper. This has 2 different sides to it, and either one of them would have looked good, but I just had my heart set on that blue and red with the rooster. So I'm going to put that on it, and what I'm going to do is just lay it evenly on the top of the cheese box. Then I'm going to use my fingernail and make a slight indentation so I know where to cut it, making sure to keep the paper good and flat so it would be just the right size for the top of the box. And then I'm going to cut it out. And I am going to use the Fusion Decoupage and Transfer Gel. This is a really nice transfer gel to use. It works absolutely perfectly. When I'm decoupaging, I like to start with a smaller area. So I will usually just apply a good coat of the decoupage gel. And then I also like to spritz my paper. That just opens up those fibers in the paper, and it is so easy to have no wrinkles when you are decoupaging. You can't really tell in this one because this paper is made to look like it has wrinkles in it, but it doesn't actually have any wrinkles in the paper. This method of wetting the paper just really makes it so easy to not have any wrinkles. Once that's done, I'm going to put it aside to dry, and I decided to paint the bottom of the box this blue. This is a Dixie Belle Terra Clay paint. It's super thick, super pigmented, so I ended up watering it down a little bit, and I just did around the whole box with this blue. It dries such a perfect match to the blue in this paper. And then finally, to finish this off, there was a little bit of the white showing around the edges, so I just took a little bit of antiquing or dark wax and rubbed it around the edges, even on the metal, and wiped it all back with a paper towel. And then I'm going to clear the blue paint with some clear wax, and I'll also go over the top of that paper again to kind of erase a little bit of that dark wax and brighten it up. This may have turned out to be my favorite of this video. It's just so farmhouse and industrial, and I love, love, love the blue. I hope you guys have enjoyed this thrift flip. For our last project today, it's actually going to be a bunch of projects in one, where I'm going to batch paint all these items and do the same technique on them to finish them off. I have a couple of crosses, and I'm going to use Little Lamb. This is Fusion's really soft gray. I love this color for doing any kind of distressing or even cement looking items. So I'm going to give all of these 2 crosses, the finial, and those 2 urns 2 coats of this Little Lamb paint. After helping the 2 coats of paint along, I am going to do the dry brushing technique on all of these. Dry brushing is so simple. I'm just using a plain chip brush, offloading most of this white paint off onto a paper towel, and then light-handedly going over all the raised parts on all these objects and just really coating them. All the high edges. I just love to dry brush. It brings out all the detail in all of your thrift flips, and I think it just makes them look so good, especially this finial. I've had this thing for so long and have been meaning to paint it forever. These things really don't sell that well on their own, but a lot of times if you'll do a whole vignette of like items, somebody will just pick up all of them. So that's what I intend to do with these. These urns turned out absolutely beautiful. If you remember, I showed you guys these in the last thrift haul. They did come with the beige roses, and I thought about changing out the floral because I didn't think the color would go that well with these, but it did turn out really good. I like the flowers in them. All of these are going to be available on the website to purchase, as well as several other of these thrift flips from this video, and also all of the products that you see me using. I will link all that below in the description box. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you have enjoyed today's thrift flips. I'm already working on next week's video, and I'm so excited for those projects as well. So I hope to see you guys again next week.